Okay, so here's another wonderful WIL, or what I'm learning in the moment and what I'm learning experientially. I'll just cross the road here. Gotta watch out for traffic. Okay, so it's just at the gym. There's a lot. There's been a bunch of these things that have occurred in the recent couple of days, and I'd like to expand upon them. Perhaps I'll do a blog though, and I'll be a little more exhaustive and expansive in the blog. But as for the purpose of this video, I'll give a good explanation out, and then I'll do oh goodness, you're gonna see I'll follow up with some other videos. These are wonderful foundational thoughts that are highly applicable, they're ubiquitous to many other situations, pretty much all other situations. Without further ado, let's get to it. So I was at the gym, and I was doing bench press, and the last couple times I've been there, I've only put 135-pound plate on either side. And so to put things in perspective, I'm not the most physically fit. I used to be more physically fit in terms of bodybuilding, and then I transitioned into I started wrestling and doing jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. So I might have trimmed up and lost some of the bulk, but I still kept just a stronger frame, and I mixed weights with it. But I decided to do higher reps, like for better muscle endurance and to strengthen all my ligaments and tendons, etc., etc. Anyway, so I'm a little bit older now. I no longer do those sports, but I enjoy working out. And anyways, so I was having shoulder issues, and I dropped the weight. This is about 3 routines ago, substantially. So 35 pounds. So anyways, for those of you that know, I weigh about 220 pounds, 230 pounds, 232 exactly today. So for a guy my size, doing bench pressing, and a guy who's been in the gym for all these years, bench pressing the barbell with 2 35-pound plates on it, it's not much. Anyways, I've noted the last few times I've been doing using the Smith machine with lighter weights and just focusing on my form, focusing on the fullness of the movement and more explosion, and my chest has been sore, and I'm getting a good pump, so a good flow of blood in there, and it feels wonderful, and but I actually feel stronger, in all honesty. So I was doing the bench press, and then I just had I'm upstairs all alone, and I had this thought, oh no, what if somebody I know comes up here? They're probably going to look at me, and they could smirk, they could judge the amount of weight that I'm doing, or the lack of weight that I'm doing. So I just challenged that thought in my mind, and I thought, wait a second, I know better than this. First and foremost, if they are judging me, that's just on their own side, and that judgment can actually be such a very, very dangerous and debilitating thing or thought, because then it can put them in a restriction where they're afraid to actually try something new or to lower their weights, because they know that others might be judging them, or they might be hyper sensitive to a reality that others might be judging them. But then I was thinking too, so anyway, I went through my weight routine. I used very light weights, and I was very pleased with the effort that I put in, and it was very safe. The movements were very safe. The movements were very thorough, and the explosiveness at the top was quite wonderful. I kind of powered through, and I feel like I got a good sweat going. I did 4 sets of each exercise. Everything feels wonderful. And I was thinking, you know what? This is a good learning lesson. A very good learning lesson. It's not the amount of weight. If I start focusing on what others perceive I should be able to do, or what I want others to, if I start focusing on looking strong or stronger to others, what I'm going to sacrifice is I could load up that barbell with a bunch of weight, And I'm sure it'll hit my pectorals, but I'm probably going to overcompensate considerably with my triceps, but also with cheating. I might use a little bit of momentum. I might bump my chest on the way back up. I increase my risk of injury, but also in my attempt to appear stronger than I am, I won't get the fullness. I won't optimize the fullness or the potential in that workout. So I'm actually taking away from myself. And I was thinking, it's wise for me to humble myself. Part of pride and part of identifying the root of pride is the care of my appearance. If I care more about my appearance than I do of the existence of what I'm able to do, there's a major problem. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, there's a lot of hypocrisy raveled up in this as well, because when I see younger folks coming into the gym, or if I see young women coming into the gym, I will stress to them to not worry about competing with others, but to compete with what they were able to do the last time they're at the gym. So to always strive to get a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger, but in accordance to the strength and conditioning that their body is being conditioned or strengthened to. So don't worry about other people and focus on just doing as much as you're able to do, and keeping with all the while keeping good form, and in isolating and targeting the muscle group that you're looking to isolate and target. And then I was thinking about how this is so true with everything. You know, it's when I'm at work, oh goodness, the best success I ever had at work and in my field was when I stopped comparing myself to others. I stopped looking at others and stopped thinking, oh, this guy's so intelligent, I could never be like him. Oh, this woman here, she's so good and thorough at her job, I can never be like her. And I started just admitting, you know, where I currently was at. I'm insecure around these conversations. When I'm around this person or doing this task, I feel insecure. And then I was able to get to the root of why I felt insecure. Well, in these conversations, I'm actually insecure because they use a lingo or a lexicon that I'm slightly familiar with, but not fully familiar with. So when they start getting technical, they use terms that go over my head and I feel intimidated. But the reality is before they knew those terms and the correct application of those terms, they had to humble themselves to understand that they didn't know those terms. So they had to seek that knowledge and then ensure that they actually had that knowledge, like receive it via experience, and then ensure that that knowledge that they have has been tried and tested, so it's confirmed, and now they can speak with certainty, and they can speak with fluidity, and they can speak with the confidence that they're not going to accidentally say something that reveals their lack of knowledge or lack of understanding. So it's all about having a humbled approach and admitting, you know, exactly where you're at. And then with the other folks, in terms of like the things that or say if a woman and the things that she's able to do, and it seems like she can do them quite seamlessly. And you know, first and foremost, I should never compare myself to her and my current state to her current state and say, oh, I'll never be able to do that. If I believe I'll never be able to do that, I'll never be able to do that. Our thoughts are very, very powerful. But what is wise to say is, I admire where she's at, but I want to look at the steps that she would have had to take to get to where she's at. I'm certain when she first started, if you talk with her, she'd probably say, I was intimidated and overwhelmed by this and this and this. But then as I became more familiar, I became more confident in my ability to assess the surroundings and prioritize what I'm doing. The more familiar I became with like the different managers and their expectations, the more confident I became in making decisions on the fly, in knowing that there were not going to be negative repercussions to those choices, but rather positives were going to come from it. But also, the more I learned, I realized for me to become more efficient and effective is to actually put the time in and do these things over and over and over again. And the more time you put in, the more comfortable you become, and the more it becomes more natural for you to do. So it's a matter of just humbling myself and getting through and persevering through those tough times where you're constantly pushing through, pushing past your comfort zones and pushing past like where you were able to get prior, in order to, exceed, your abilities each time. Once I start thinking about it from that perspective, I realize, hey, that added pressure that I put on myself is not needed. I need to humble myself and seek out people that are in positions and doing things at an optimal level and understand this is where I desire to be, so I can garner from them. I can be around them. And but I also have to remain in a state of humility where I understand that's where I desire to be, but it's not where I'm currently at. So regardless, I need to do effectively what I'm able to do in the moment and not try to do anything more. If I try to do more than what I'm able to do, that's putting on a performance. That's putting on a facade. And much like lifting weights, and I'm thinking of like doing curls for the biceps, if I start swinging my lower back to get the weights up, that means I'm using like momentum instead of like activating my biceps, which means I could hurt my lower back, but I'm also not like doing the thing that this routine is purpose for. I'm cheating myself, and I'm cheating myself in an effort to put on an appearance or performance for the people around me. And I was thinking, okay, this is wonderful. And the biggest teachable lesson for this is, it's not what we perceive or how we perceive ourselves. It's actually us being able to come to a point of humility where we're able to see ourselves and our strengths and limitations for exactly what they are. That is the starting point where true growth can occur. So anyway, so that's a wonderful WIL, and I'm going to add upon this, most certainly. There's so much. This is like a brick that's been added on a solid foundation, and I'm going to keep adding on to it, and I'm excited. This is very exciting. God bless you.